resistance. You know, I wrote a book called Resisting Your Soul. You know, I wrote nearly 30,000 words on the subject. If I could distill it down, it's both the inertia and potentially the repelling force that most of us experience when we move towards doing what truly inspires us. Anybody ever had a good idea and took themselves out? Anybody got half-finished creative projects on their hard drive or their desk? You know, we all have. You know, I've written 14 books. I've probably got 30 half-written books that, for whatever reasons, I've not yet published and may never publish. How many of us have been, you know, truly inspired and then allow somebody else to talk us out about inspiration? It's that resistance is that force. It's like we get inspired and then resistance kicks in. I almost have come to describe it now as, you know, you go to Sainsbury's and you do the buy one, get one free. Buy inspiration, get resistance free. You know, they are stablements. They work together. I've almost come to think of them for myself as like thunder and lightning. You know, we know when there's lightning, usually thunder follows it. I know when I get that lightning bolt of inspiration, that either within seconds, minutes, hours, or days, the resistance is going to follow. Yeah, that was a brilliant idea, but how many of us know that? Brilliant idea, but it would never work because. You know, we all know it. So, you know, I think what I'm also trying to get across to you is we all experience it. We're all subject to it. I don't know about you, but I used to think it was just me. Why am I so messed up? Why do I have so many brilliant ideas I don't follow through? I must have a character defect. Anybody ever done that to themselves? Anybody do it to themselves right now? Yeah. So I think as I've become more prolific in my kind of creative output, if you like, an entrepreneurial output, and I've worked with people that are also in leadership and creativity, I realise we're all subject to resistance. I think the difference between those who are successful and those who are less successful is, successful people have got an understanding of their resistance. I know it's going to happen. So I have that awareness that it's going to happen, probably. You know, I don't say it has to happen, but it will probably happen. And B, successful people just learn how to deal with it. And I'll talk a little bit about it. Because I think those are the two key things. We all have it to a degree. So it's just recognising there's nothing wrong with you. If you're going to want to live an inspired, creative life, if you're going to want to live a purposeful life, you're probably going to have some resistance along the way. It's inevitable in my experience. So I say that to reassure you, because obviously the other side of the equation is, well, can we get beyond that resistance? Well, yeah, you know, there would be no creativity, there would be no acts of love, there would be no acts of leadership, there would be no acts of forgiveness if there wasn't a way to beat resistance. You know, we've been beating it throughout time, people are beating it every minute of every day throughout the world. But it doesn't mean they're not happy. Okay, next one. What purpose does it seek to serve? In my experience, at best it seeks to just stop us in our tracks, at least for a while. And at worst, you know, it can lead to addictions, it can lead to self-destructive behaviour, not just self-sabotaging and self-undermining behaviour, but self-destructive behaviour. I don't know about you, but I've had times where I've just thought, you know, my fear is so great, you know, I'm just never going to get beyond it, otherwise I'll just give up.
It's about the internal self-protective mechanism, trying to protect us from what we fear, but also what we love, because we don't believe we are worthy of it.
Yeah, well, the way I've come to think of it is, you know, again, I'm not saying you have to believe this, this is just my way of making sense of it. We're an ego and we're a soul. You know, the inspiration comes from our soul. The resistance comes from our ego. So our soul always loves being inspired. It loves expansiveness, it loves creativity, it loves to express itself. And then our ego chimes in and goes, are you sure? You know, if you create that, what if it fails? What if you look stupid? You know, I used to have a pretty highly paid 30 years ago corporate career. So my resistance at the time said, you're going to leave a highly paid corporate career to start from scratch and start your own business. Are you stupid? That's how my resistance spoke to me 30 years ago. You know, it said I must be mad. So I tend to think of resistance as almost like a civil servant. It just wants to keep itself going. I don't mean that to knock civil servants, but I think some of them do really good work. But it's that idea of like, fear just wants to keep itself going. So we have to have the awareness to say there is a choice other than fear. Yeah. And that's the key, you know, and it's number one, it's probably recognizing, and number two, it's listening to, and probably number three, trusting that other voice than fear. And sometimes that voice will come from people around us. Do you realise you're just in your fear? You're just making up a load of stories and scaring yourself. You go, oh, I didn't realise I was doing that. And sometimes we catch ourselves doing it.
It's interesting how you use the word stories there.
Yeah.
So we can tell ourselves about ourselves and
Yeah.
others.
You know, I think to overcome our resistance, we end up needing to tell different stories about who we are. So that's why, in a way, I started off with that slide saying, you know, part of my goal for you is you tell a different story about who you are and what you're capable of. You know, I used to think I was inadequate, unworthy, and all those kind of things. So for me, it's kind of telling a different story about us. I'm very creative. I am worthy of love. You know, I'm worthy of success. So I'm still learning to tell a new story about who I think I am. But because of, you know, the kind of studying I do, it's not like I'm making up a new story. I just misunderstood who I was in the first place. So you're not trying to make a new version of yourself. I think we're just returning to who we truly are already.
Yeah.
And we'll just cover it up with all these stories. So there's a lovely book that I read a few years ago called The War of Art. Anybody read this book? Yeah, it's an amazing book. And I got to interview Stephen Pressfield who wrote it. That is home in Malibu. It's a tough job. I put my hand up and go, if you want to fly me to Malibu and take me, you know, if you want to fly me to LA and take me to Malibu and talk to one of my heroes, okay, I'll do it. So this is one of the quotes from The War of Art. He said, the more important a call or action is to your soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel towards pursuit. And this is what I mean about the interplay between, you know, in my language, our soul and our ego. Our soul gets inspired and goes, this is it, this is your next step. And your ego kicks in and goes, are you sure? So just recognizing, in a way, that we're only resisting because there is something inspiring bubbling. If we hadn't connected with our inspiration, if we hadn't connected with our sense of purpose, our sense of creativity, there would be no resistance. We just live a flatline life. It's because we are moving forward that the resistance kicks in. It's because we're daring greatly that the resistance kicks in. Yeah, the Brené Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when you dare greatly, you wake up resistance. It will get its bigger guns out. You know? That's what I mean by this. You know, if you want to live a kind of flatline life, you don't even know you're in resistance. But if you really want to go, I want to live fully, I want to really inhabit myself, and all those things, then resistance says, good luck. I'm going to bring out my bigger guns to try and stop you. Why it does that, I don't know. All I can say is that's what seems to happen. I cannot tell you for sure why. Do we all seem to have it? Well, I've kind of answered that already. In my experience, yes. I've met a few people who claim to have no resistance. Whether they do or not, I don't know. You know, I can't see inside their head. The way I would tend to judge it is, you know, what does their life look like? Is it a fulfilled, creative, purposeful life? If it is, then I would believe them. If they're miserable and whatever, but they say, no, I don't have resistance, I probably think they're in denial. And it's not necessarily my job to tell them. So yes, we all have resistance, in my experience. And one of the breakthrough moments for me came a couple of years ago. It's a long story, so I'll just give you the headlines on it. I had hepatitis about 6 years ago, and on my kind of recovery, I felt pretty crap about myself. Because if anybody's ever had liver disease, but it's kind of, you know, a jaundiced view of the world. You know, I understood when people said, you have a jaundiced view of the world. I just felt really dark and black for a few months. And I reached out to a few people, and this was a woman called Liz who I'd coached. And I knew she was a TV producer. She'd had some successes. And to cut a long story short, I just sent an email to a few people saying, you know, I'm in a pretty dark place myself at the moment. Can you just remind me of something, you know, how good I am? And I found out that Liz was now the director of Downton Abbey. She had been there at the beginning. She worked with a guy called Gareth Neame, who ran the production company, and Julian Fellows, to write and produce and bring Downton to our screens. And she said, oh, it's lovely to hear from you, yeah, sure. Oh, you know, to cheer you up, would you like to come on set and see how we do it? This was in 2013, so I said, sure. You know, so to cut a long story short, we've struck up a really good friendship. I've been on set a few times, and I've interviewed her a couple of times, and if you're interested, I can send you the link to an interview that I did that's on my blog. And this is what she said, you know, I assumed, you know, if you, I don't know if you're a fan of Downton or not, I'm not a massive fan of Downton, I'm a massive fan of Liz. She's an amazing leader, you know, she has got a talent for bringing the best out of people. But what she said, and I don't think she even realised she said it until I told her, she said, you know, basically everyone arrives on set a bit scared, a bit in resistance. So my job is to make them feel safe, so they feel safe enough to give their best. I just thought, wow, I want to work for something like that. I wish I'd worked for a leader who said, I know you're turning up a bit scared, let me make it safe for you to give your best. Wouldn't the world look different if most leaders kind of work like that? And I think, you know, the heart of it is like we can only recognise other people's kind of resistance and vulnerability when we have an intimacy with our own. You know, she's very intimate with her own vulnerability. She knows what it's like to feel vulnerable. She's had lots of challenges in her life. So therefore, she holds a big heart for the people around her. Who goes, you know, I know you're turning up feeling scared. Let me make it safe. What a wonderful thing to do. So, in answer to the question, does everybody have it? Yeah. Even the best in the world have it. You know, whoever you may like from the Downton series, you know, Liz seems to be saying, I turn up a bit scared. My job is to make it easy for them. So nobody escapes it in a way, and there's nothing wrong with you for having it. Does that make sense? So how does it show up? This is where I may just read my list of things. I thought, you know, we've all got our own unique ways of manifesting resistance. And it's very easy to share this list, which I'm about to share, and then I'm feeling depressed and think, oh my God, you know, is there any hope for me? You know, resistance. I could have a gold medal in resistance. You know, how many of us feel like we could have a gold medal in resistance? Yeah? So how does it show up? Our inner critic, you know, is one way it shows up, just trashing you all the time. Self-sabotage and self-undermining behaviour. Not showing up at all. I think one of the major ways most people feed their resistance is by isolating themselves. You know, I did it for years. I would just stay at home and kind of run my business and not get out. And people would, in a way, positively challenge me. So I think isolation is a big form of resistance. We do show up, but we modify or adapt the way we show up. So we create a business, and then we look at it and go, oh, yeah, I'm not really inspired about the business that I've created. You know, it's like the business I think I should have created, or my mum would have been proud of me for having created, or, you know, whatever. And I think it takes an enormous amount of courage to be able to say, this is the business I'm inspired to have created, and the business I'm inspired to be running, and that serves other people. So it's not just selfish, but it's serving others as well. Procrastination and delay. Anybody ever procrastinated? Am I in the room with procrastination? You know, we all recognise these things. I think one of the things we don't often recognise, another thing is that we think we're thinking clearly, but actually we're thinking fearfully. We're making excuses, we're making kind of rationalisations. Let me give you 10 reasons why I can't do that. You know, that's good logical thinking in a way, but really what it's saying is I'm scared and I'm just trying to justify